Carla Marie, welcome to Free Flame Thoughts. Thank you for being my guest in advance, let me say, before we get into it. Let me start off, and thank you to the viewers. Whatever you decide, the comments that you share, I will go back and read it a little bit later, okay? So let me start off by asking you, how's your day been? What have you been up to?
My day's been good, actually. Did some exercising earlier. The first time I've been to the gym in like a year. So tomorrow,
Oh, wow.
I don't know how I'm going to be. And then I've been doing loads of gardening. So hopefully you won't hear. So they're doing like concrete. They're putting down a patio and stuff in the garden. And then I just got dressed and got ready to do this because before I was looking sweaty. Yeah.
How are you feeling How are you feeling about doing this talk tonight? Let me ask you a little pre question. How are you feeling about it?
I feel okay because but I do feel a bit nervous though. I won't lie, but it will pass. It will go.
Well, I'm your co-pilot for tonight, and when you're in my plane, everything is always smooth sailing. Okay, so let's get into it. Tonight, guys, we're talking about agoraphobia, anxiety, and depression, and remedies, saging, candles, crystals, and much more. So, give us a bit of a briefing. Who is Kay Marie? Who is Carla Marie?
Who's Carla? Well, I am a free spirit, as my friends call me, especially my friends, certain friends call me free spirit. I'm an optimistic person who's really happy in many things that I do, but also going through a lot of different issues. I am a trainee psychotherapist, studying person-centered counseling. I'm a maker of candles, crystal candles and stuff like that, sage. I'm a twin. I have a twin sister. I've got brothers and sisters. And I feel like I'm just someone who's just like a student of life, literally. It sounds cliche, but I've realized I really am.
That's amazing. So before we rock on to the actual topic, I have a curious question. I always imagine, what would it be like to have a twin? And I thought two of me would be just too much. Okay. So what is it like for you to have a twin? Like, is it like, what do you guys like? What's it like?
Yeah, like it's on a normal side, it's like normal brothers and sisters because I've got brothers and sisters as well. So it's kind of like we all have the same kind of understanding, you know, the same jokes, the same annoyances, the same fun, the same kind of thing. But with my sister, it's like we're very similar in some ways, but in most ways we're not. We don't dress the same. We don't eat the same things. We don't look at the same things. However, we have this kind of inner intuition. So it's funny, you see, like, she might have like a scar on her. I've got a scar, but from different things. Or if she's unwell, yes, that cliche, I can tell if she's unwell. She can tell if but in general, it's cool. Colleen, her name's Colleen, by the way. So I'm Carla Marie, she's Colleen. Rose.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. In my next one, maybe I'll be a twin, or maybe even a triplet. Okay, where should we start? Okay. Which one of your symptoms arrived in your life first? The agoraphobia, the anxiety, or the depression? Let's get into that.
I think it was anxiety that then, because I never had anxiety before. So it was more of a thing of me trying to think, I don't know what's wrong, but it's kind of getting through it. So anxiety and then panic attacks came. Yeah. Okay.
Is it possible for you to put on a light just so we can see you a little bit more clearer? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
It seems bright to you, but from me, and even everyone, is both of our lights okay? Am I a bit too dark? Let us know. From where I'm sitting to it's a little dark, and I can see you, but I need a little bit more sharpness.
Yeah, can you see me?
Excellent, thank you. So carry on. So you said the anxiety started first.
Yeah, so the anxiety started first. Just kind of feeling a bit like an out of body experience. I can say that now. At the time, it was more like I wasn't connected to myself. So when I was sitting around people or when I was doing anything in life, I felt disconnected. But at the time, like I'm saying, I didn't know what the words were. It was just like, I wasn't comfortable in myself. And so I started to become aware of how I'm feeling. I could hear my heartbeat. I could hear my body inside. I could feel the fear. I could literally, to me, it felt like my eyes was like blinging, you know, of like, oh my God, I feel really shaky. I now know that most people didn't even know. But for me, it was one of the worst times of my life. I felt like I was just living in constant fear. Even when I was in silence, it's like the fear was so loud that I just couldn't concentrate, and I was always looking around, and began to not look at a lot of people. Eye contact went down, my confidence went down. I wasn't I wasn't happy. I was very shaky, very kind of always doing this. Like, and I think it was like because I thought maybe I was sweating, or you know, I wasn't able to focus and listen. Yeah.
I'm going to share my experiences on anxiety later, but I want to tune into where you're at the moment, because I can resonate with some of the symptoms, and it's just surreal when someone else says that. I can relate to some of those symptoms. So may I ask you two things? Firstly, how young were you when it began, and what was the cause?
I think I was around maybe 22. And the cause was because I was doing things that my family didn't really agree with. I was always, as far as I know, a very confident, outgoing person, and I was always encouraged by my family to be me. So when they found, you know, when they heard certain things I was doing, they weren't really happy with me. You know, I'm from a Jamaican background, a very kind of good background, but very much like you do the right thing, and you kind of. I didn't realize at that time until it happened, but it was like, okay, I didn't fall in line. I wasn't assimilating, and I was so encouraged to be myself that when I was myself, it wasn't entirely accepted. And so therefore I was literally excommunicated from the family, like, you know, in many ways, like kicked out of the house, don't want to talk to me, like lots of things like that. So yeah.
So okay, so my mother's Jamaican, my father's Dominican, so there's always that mix of opinions and perspectives according to your life choices. I get that. So, okay, so based on your life choices is what you're going to paraphrase, what you're saying, this is what ignited them to disprove, and that was the core of your anxiety. It's where it began.
Yeah, because I'm from a very big family. So I've got 9 uncles, I've got aunties and extended aunties and uncles, loads of cousins. We was always together. We was always like vibing and having fun and stuff. So when that kind of dissipated, then I think that's what happened. It was like, I didn't realize how important my family was. I knew they were important, but I didn't realize it had a bearing on my personality, my character. Like if they're not happy with me, you know, well, what would I do? Because I always thought, of course, your family is unconditional love, right? So, yeah.
So, still on the topic, on the side of anxiety, what was the, how did you identify that it was anxiety? So you had these sudden symptoms, but what was the ultimate resonation with you that was like, something's not right? Did you get help? Did you go to the doctors? Did you speak to a friend?
Well, no, it was someone I was seeing at the time. So the person I was seeing at the time, and because they knew how I was, and it was like, you know what, you're not like this entirely when you're just with me, but you still have anxieties and stuff. And I'd be like, okay. And then they did loads of research for me, and they came back and said, oh, you've got general anxiety and social anxiety. That's what it is. And I was like, it kind of like was a little bit of a weight off my shoulder, because I didn't have an answer before. And then suddenly I was like, oh, social anxiety, let me go and look it up. Let me go and look at panic attacks. Let me go and look at, you know, I mean, I knew I had panic attacks. That was a given. Like I knew.
But did you speak to anybody also medically to solidify what your partner diagnosed you with, basically, to be sure that that's what it was?
Yeah. I did in the future, but at the time I didn't, because yet again, like, and I'm not putting down Jamaican families at all, including mine, because I was brought up in a certain way. So there was no thought to go to see a therapist or to go to see a counselor, because I thought they were gonna probably section me, you know, psychics, because I thought everything was psychiatric.
We're mad, isn't it? Yeah. If you need counselling. By the way, for those who don't know, that's my study background. Also, I'm an advocate of the whole therapy world. So even like now, we're going to be. It's going to be terms that I know you're going to understand because you studied therapy. So tell us where, so we're touching on the anxiety, but when did the agoraphobia step in? Which is, let's clarify that, when you are unable to leave the house, basically.
Yeah.
So when, is that tied in? Is it all relevant?
Yeah, it all tied in. I mean, I was working in a hospital, a Royal Free Hospital in London. I was working there for a few years. And what happened is that I had to go on the train and the bus and just normal things that you're supposed to do when you're going to work. But eventually I became so self-conscious that even getting on the bus was like, oh my God, like people started laughing, just normally laughing. But for some reason it was like, maybe they're laughing at me. Or, and it wasn't even in a self-centered way. It was literally like, oh my God, do I look okay kind of thing. And then it was like, anything, it just became a thing of me not wanting to be around people, because I started to lose trust in myself and my confidence. And so suddenly I couldn't, like I was saying, when I couldn't have eye contact and things like that. And I just started to have this kind of developed phobias on the buses, on the trains, being around a lot of people. And it felt like everybody was looking at me, you know, like I knew they weren't, but it kind of felt like, and of course in London there's loads of people. So when you're on a train and everyone doesn't know where to look, you're kind of looking around and, you know, and yeah, I think the agoraphobia kicked in then. I literally started to lie. So I started to say, oh yeah, I'm going to go to work. And then the point where I couldn't go and I felt really down was one time when my mum had asked me, oh, where were you at work today? Because she worked in the same hospital, but a completely different department. And that was like the first time I literally lied to her and said, oh no, I was there, I just left early. But I remember that whole morning sitting there crying, thinking, why can't I leave the house? Like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, I thought I was going crazy, you know. So, and there's a little bit of a history.
But let me just connect and say, I have my beautiful niece on our live today, and I'm just feeling so chuffed that she's here. And Antonia Pascal, she says that I can relate so much. Wow, for so long I thought it was just me. So these topics, just take a moment. These topics are so important. Okay, there's so many other things that people are talking about, and we get that. But this is mental health and well-being. So thanks for sharing that, Antonia. It's really, really important. So as you were saying, you were working in a hospital.
Yeah, and so I was working in a ward, and I helped to set up the first pediatric burns clinic. So I was really proud of that. But towards the end of it, there's a lot of people coming in and they want to take pictures, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't have the world look at me. I couldn't talk to anyone, and I started to become a bit more quieter. I think for me, I was lucky because I had a really great friend called Sarah and Emma, but Sarah was always on the phone with me, but they couldn't see it, you know? So I would go out sometimes, but like people wouldn't know, but I would end up like having maybe a bottle of wine before I went out, but no one could tell because I think I was so full of adrenaline and fear that I didn't act drunk. I probably just seemed normal. Whereas for me, that was me acting confident. Like, hi guys, I'm here. And then I had the worst hangovers the next day because I'd probably end up drinking the whole night. But it was like a catch-22, you know, kind of drinking alcohol, trying to balance out my feelings, because that's the only thing I recognized that helped. I remember one day I drank some wine and I was like, oh, I don't feel so bad, you know. But these things can spiral out of control. Luckily for me, I'm not someone who becomes addicted to things. So it was literally, yeah.
I have an addictive nature, so you're like, that's why I got to be very disciplined in my life. But this, and the viewers, thank you for joining us. Keep it coming, and I'm going to check out your comments shortly. Okay, so we're still talking about, we've touched a little bit about on anxiety, and we're now talking about the agoraphobia side. So you had your bottles of wine, you topped it up before you went out. How did you manage to? That would make me feel more paranoid, I guess, but you managed okay.
It's a catch-22, because after a while what happens is that I didn't feel like drinking. I didn't want to drink all the time, and you know, I'd feel unwell sometimes, or I just didn't want to be drunk all the time. So, but then I couldn't really go out if I wasn't. So then I ended up staying indoors a lot. And you know, I remember one day, the first time I had agoraphobia, and I was at, yet again, my friend Sarah's house, and I think I think it was my birthday. Sorry, it was actually my birthday, and it was the worst day of my life. And I literally had to leave and say, oh, I feel well. And I remember walking the back streets. She lives in another part, about an hour walk. But I remember walking all the back streets because I couldn't get on the bus. And I was afraid even to walk past the shops. I didn't know what was wrong with me. All I knew is that I must be going crazy. I must be going crazy. So. Yeah.
In regards to like anxiety, the interesting, I'm going to just take a moment to relate to some of the things you're speaking about. I think I had anxiety from childhood, but I didn't, obviously, like you said, you couldn't articulate what that feeling was. But yeah. I don't actually recall having a cause. I just feel like it was maybe just in me. I don't think anything happened to give me that anxiety. But then, like, for an example, something stupid like knowing I'm late for school, and do I want to go in that classroom and everyone turn around and see me walk in? That would make me not want to go to school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the most pathetic thing, but I'm going to relate. It's just, then you know that, is that normal? That can't be normal. Why do I care about walking in assembly late because the whole congregation would be like, that would bother me. That the whole steering thing would bother me. But obviously, I've outgrown that. But
yeah,
I think when I gave up smoking, like over a decade ago, when I gave up smoking for the third time, the anxiety came back. It was a trigger giving up.
okay, yeah, yeah.
When I gave up before, and I had no issue. But by the third time, years later now, it develops. I don't know why, but when I spoke to the doctor, he's like, yeah, some people, when they give up coffee or lots of Red Bull or cigarettes or whatever after a long time, and I was a ganja baby, straight up weed baby. So when I gave up, yeah, I remember one day being on the bus and I just had this really weird feeling like I had to get off. No, I was on the train. I had to get off the train. I felt like the wall on me. It was a really weird, you must be like, am I going mad? It's a really weird feeling that like you just got to get out. And then like 10 years on, I still don't like going on trains.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole life riding trains. So it's really, I can relate to that. But social anxiety, I think I might still have that every now and again.
Yeah.
Like, it's new places, like walking in by yourself, those new kind of places. I have that every now and again. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah. I think on a level, a lot of people have anxiety. What you were talking about is flight or flight, isn't it? So it's kind of like trying to be someone, then feeling the anxiety.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the anxiety there tends to be a cause, but that's the thing, because you can have anxiety, and if you don't catch what the cause is, then you don't know what it is, and that's what happens throughout life. When things return, you're like, but why should I feel like that? Because I'm not going through that anymore, and actually there's nothing to worry about. But an anxiety disorder is different from general anxiety. Normal anxiety is something that everyone has. We can all have anxiety going to a job interview, or being nervous for meeting a new person, or even sometimes nervous meeting your friends, or it could be like you should be excited to have a good night, but you're like, oh my God, I hope it's good, you know? And that in itself, it's a good thing. It's a nice thing, if you look at it in that way, because it goes towards excitement, and that it has that kind of, you know, and once you're with your friends, you can kind of get through it. Anxiety disorders are, whether or not you're with your friends, you still feel that. And even if you're with people you don't know, it can be more heightened, but there's still a level. And it was hard to say, like, to so many friends and family, like, or friends at the time, like, it's not you, you know, I just have to go. And they're like, why? Are you okay? Like, because as far as they're concerned, everything was fine. I was a little bit quiet, but everything was fine. But for me, it was like I just was bogged down with so many thoughts about crazy stuff. So
it's crazy. It is. I mean, I'm not saying that's crazy, but the whole, you know, and people, they can't tell how you're feeling because you still look very normal to everybody. And that's the thing. And if we're not careful, this is why, again, this conversation is so important, because I feel like we or people do walk around with that camouflage because it's expected of us, you know. And this is why I love doing this type of thing, because I feel no way saying who I am, but one must get to a point where you could just be like, you know what, yeah, I'm popping, but I still have these crazy ways, and what? I fully accept myself. And when I got to that place, you know, it's people like you. Like I said to people, I'll give you a prime example. Pressing live was something I was not going to do before. The anxiety. But what it is, it's a case of I have purposes and callings that I have to submit to.
Exactly.
And this is why I've overcome it. But for those who don't know, when I started doing radio, this is going to sound so dumb now. This is like, I'm pouring all the tea out tonight, yeah? When I first started doing radio, I was in tears. That's only December, the other day, by the way.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. Everyone's like, but Silver, this is Silver. I'm like, what's... Really? You know, but I'm like, you put me on this pedestal and it's not. I was literally in tears, but I can't. But what is it that I was scared of? Like, my biggest fear is failure. It must be that. But then I'm like, what failure of what exactly? You know, in this case, but it's the anxiety of just messing up. And then I was like, you know what? You're not reading lines. There's not an acting part. Just be you. And if you feel that you are enough, you're going to be cool. So here I am, doing radio, doing live, like I've been doing it forever.
Here you are in all your glory, looking beautiful.
But thank you, but I have to share these stories because people that are on this live, or people in my life will be like, what?
Yeah.
And I don't mind saying, you know what, this is where I'm this a bit blonde, or I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, and I love being transparent because I feel like it empowers me. Holding on to play a role so that I fit into people's isms isn't who Silver is. I'm just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing when we get to a point where we say, you know what, I'm not all right. I remember one day when I was younger telling a friend I'm not all right, and he was like, huh? What do you mean you're depressed? So admitting that is an important thing. So, you know, I'm glad that we're here speaking about it. But let's go on to the depression. Like, when did, so you went from the anxiety to agoraphobia, and then you had, it evolved into depression?
Well, so they never left. It was just like one on top of another. So it wasn't like anxiety and then that went in and panic. And it was literally anxiety, panic attack, you know, panic attacks, depressions, and all, you know, phobias and stuff that came on top. But so I think throughout the time of me having anxieties and having everything else that we've discussed, that caused me to feel depressed because I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't have anyone I could honestly fully speak to. I could, but you don't really want to burden your friends and keep going on about yourself as well. And so yeah, there was no one to talk to. So I think without me realizing there was no one to talk to, I think I kind of spiraled into depression because you have when you're in a low state of mind and a low vibration, and you're just you're listening to that vibration. Like, I didn't know about vibrations or those things, you know, properly how I know now. So at the time, I was living in low vibrations. Not that low vibrations are always bad, but I was constantly in that place. So I was literally, I say I'm walking dead. And so I went down to, I think the smallest I was, at the time I was always quite small. So I think I went to about 6 stones.
So you wasn't eating?
No, I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't drink. I had zero appetite. I didn't have any. It was like I felt like I was just becoming an empty soul. I was just walking around.
Let me ask you a very probing question and a quite conveying question. Did you ever have that hopeless feeling of, I don't want to be anymore, I want to done this? You know what I'm saying? Did you have those suicidal thoughts?
Yeah. 100%. I was never a suicidal person in the sense of I want to kill myself. That was never me, because I was too afraid to kill myself. But I was more like, I used to always say, if I could just stop the world and get off, like literally, it's like it was spinning, and if I could just stop it from spinning and then just step off the world, that would be okay. And I used to imagine like just floating, but I was never someone who tried to commit suicide or
no. Okay, so let's identify that. So did you have those thoughts? I know you didn't attempt to do it, but did you have those thoughts?
No, I had like what you would call like visions or hallucinations or thoughts in various, which was more like, dying, but it wasn't something like, I never had this thought of, oh, I'm going to do something. I knew I didn't want to do it, so I was even more afraid of those thoughts. And it wasn't often. I probably think about maybe 3 or 4 times, and it's probably more to do in the beginning. But I can
definitely relate to that. Different reasons, different scenarios, different ages, but I can really relate to that. So can I ask, does stress at all in itself affect and trigger your anxiety? Because that's what, for me, stress brings on anxieties for me.
What, in general or then?
Yeah, in general.
Stress can bring on. I mean, in general, I feel like this. Sometimes I feel like, am I in like a kind of, in this world, are we in a depressive state trying to raise our vibrations all the time? Because it's easier to be sad and down. It's easier to get out of bed and say, I can't be bothered, than to get out of bed, morning, it's going to be amazing, and that stuff. And so, so I feel like when I'm stressed, it does. But I have I've got this book that I wrote for myself, like throughout the years, of different notes that I would write that would direct me. So when I feel myself going in that direction, I can read my book. I'll have like lots of little notes, and I'll remind myself.
Is your journal?
Yeah, I have a journal. I also have like a little box. So I've got a box of memories, and I have a box of like little notes. And when I'm feeling fine, which is most of the time, I'll just write like little notes, little post-it notes, love notes to myself, to my love in the future. Just like little things are just like kind
I love that love note. I like that. Okay.
When I'm feeling down.
Can I ask, in the midst of the anxiety, the agoraphobia, and the depression, and your life decisions that your family and perhaps peers didn't agree to, which we're still talking about here, how did that transition and potentially affect personal relationships in your love life? How did that affect, or did it affect?
It did affect. I mean, in the beginning, I think it's weird because when I look back, so there was a time I was going out with someone who's really, really spiritual. And so that was the person who found that I was social anxiety and used to burn candles and stuff like that, and go for walks in the park and stuff. And then I started people, but then I was still at a vulnerable stage. So then, you know, there's just one person that was totally wrong for me, but I was vulnerable and I let them kind of look after me. And I'm not that kind of person. But at the time, it was like, oh, thank God someone accepts me.
You had your moment. You had your moment. We have to forgive ourselves for these moments when we're not ourselves. And we pick individuals that resonates with us not being ourselves.
It's totally.
When you look at trust me.
When you look at the people you go out with, like in the past, you're like, oh, that's why. I can literally say that's where I was. That was a cycle of life I was at. And I'm not saying that anyone except for one, but most of everyone, you know, was really nice and long-term relationships, and it was really good. And then I keep transitioning, so now I can look back and look at my relationships. It did affect my relationships, but not in a negative way for them, but for me, because I recognized what I needed. Because now I wasn't just happy-go-lucky, la 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 Carla kind of thing. Now I was like, oh, I need to be with certain people. I need to have certain energies around me. I need to be able to be calm and to be happy at different times, rather than just being how that person wants you to be or expects you to be. So yeah.
Okay. So tell us how you got from point A to point B and then C, because you've gone from that to being inspired to then creating your company, the Mood Company. Tell us from that to that. How did you get there?
Well, I ended up seeing a counselor, actually, a person-centered counselor. I didn't know she was person-centered, and I didn't even know what that was at the time. And after talking to her for a long time, and, you know, well, I'd say about 4 months or something, and she ended up saying to me, you need to be a counselor. So I said, oh, I actually did study counseling, but I left because of anxiety, funny enough, the course. And she said, oh, no, you need to be a humanistic, person-centered, Carl Rogers psychotherapist. That's who you are. Everything you bring to me.
Why did she say that? What was that for her?
Yeah, she said because Carl Rogers' person-centered theory has, for example, 3 core conditions, which is empathy, congruence, which is being genuine, your real self, your true self, and unconditional positive regard as well. So there's empathy, congruence, unconditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard is literally just accepting everyone for who they are, and meeting the person where they're at. And so she would say to me, you've never blamed anyone in anything that you've told me that's happened to you. And I've told her some dire stories. And she said, you never blamed them. You always understood where they were coming from, where their culture or their age or who it was.
Wow.
And so, in the meantime, I started to use herbs. So what happened is that I then got to a point where I didn't know what to do. So I went to the doctor. So I was working in NHS. Okay. So I went to the doctor and they put me on some antidepressants, amitriptyline and citalopram. Within 3 weeks, I went from being a size 8, which was around my usual weight, 8 to 10 usual size, to a 12, 14 within 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I was bloated and I was really big. And I remember saying, yeah, and I remember feeling really, that made me even more depressed because now I look absolutely awful. My family who did see me would be like, calling me names, you know, like, you know, just how, you know, Jamaicans say things like, oh, we could roll you down the hill, like, excuse me, all that. So then I moved into using herbs. So I started to look online, look for natural remedies. I stopped the antidepressants after a while. And then I decided to, you know what, I want to do this naturally. And so I started to be, as my mum would call me at the time, a walking chemist. But I wasn't a chemist of medication. I was a chemist of vitamins and herbs and teas and all that kind of stuff.
That's me.
Yeah, and throughout the time, it helped in some ways, but it didn't change my ambience. So I started to buy candles, scented candles. And then I started to realize as a bit, I don't know what the word is, a bit sensitive to some of them. So I started to look into the candles, and I was like, oh my goodness, like everything is really toxic. I was making my own essential oils as well. So I was doing oils for my hair, my skin, everything. Nothing was brought from the shop. Shea butters, oils, all kinds of things. And I reckon I started to heal myself. I started to burn essential oils for scents. I did lavender bags as well, put them by my bed. And it wasn't anything that I actually researched. It was things that I was drawn to after a while. And yeah. So I think I started to move from there. Started to look into what chakras are. At the time, I was a Christian, because when I became depressed, I started to call for God, like, please, God, help me. So I became a Christian.
What? So you became, at that point, was you born again? Did you do the whole baptizing thing?
Yeah, I went to California. I lived in California for a while with my twin sister.
Wow.
I got baptized by like the top pastors in California, whatever. Yeah, so I became a born again, but I still wasn't fitting in, because I still had me. My personality was still there. So I would always kind of say, but what does that mean? Or what does that mean? And it was too many questions.
So let me ask you, are you still a born again Christian?
No, I'm not a Christian at all.
I would say now your practice is spirituality like me, but you recognize Christianity, yeah, for whatever it is. Okay.
I recognize Christianity. Yeah, I did etymologies on my own back at home. I did my own etymologies, my own assignments, my own literally like dissertations on different subjects of anxiety, anything that would to see, because there was a point where I was told that it's probably because God is upset with you. This is your issue. Yeah. So then, and the person who said that doesn't agree with that now, and they have apologized because I brought it up, and so that really did damage me for a long time. That
for someone who might have been very fragile, absolutely. So listen, what I'd like us to do is to go into your company and how that became. But before we do that, allow me to look at a few of the comments, and then giving you time to get into that moment where we're going to take stage 2. Okay? So I'll take my glasses on and off, because where I've got my lighting, it flex too much, and you're just going to see a bright light through my glasses.
Yeah.
According to my brother. So, hi, Page of Connections. Hi, friends. It's going great. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Okay, so it's just waves, basically. Lips 35. Is that your Cuzzy or my Cuzzy? I don't know that page.
Oh, sorry, that's my cousin. Hi, Cuzzy.
Okay. Hi, Cuzzy. Anyway, hi. Thank you for joining us. Okay. All right. So tell us how you got from, you've now explained about what you attracted to in regards to the scents and the oils and then creating your own products. How did that transition into you owning the Mood Company? Tell us about that. The guys, Kay here owns her own company, which sells the sages, the burning sticks, the crystals, the candles. So tell us about that. And then we're going to go into, whilst you're telling us, can you share some of your products, some of the candles, what they called? Before we leave, she can tell you where you can find that, and I'll add the link even on this page also. So tell us a bit about, where are your candles? Where are those good stuff? Have you got any?
Oh, I've got candles here, yeah. Okay. But my company is called Good Mood Company, and it's www.goodmoodcompanies.com.
Okay, I did check it out, everybody, and I've actually made my order, and I can't wait to receive my products. I just cannot wait. And when I receive it, I shall let everybody know. Absolutely. So show us a few candles, if you don't mind.
Okay, so we'll start with a candle, one of your candles. So this is so it's sage and lavender. So it's soy wax candles, so pure. Everything is vegan, so it's no toxins, toxin-free, paraben-free, not used on animals or anything like that. These are soy candles, white soy candles, with soy sticks, wicks, and then on top of it, it's oh, it's coming now. Don't worry, it happens sometimes. It's got sage on the top and lavender.
You know what? I've never seen a candle. I was so fascinated when I saw your product. I was like, sage on a candle? Really? I need some of that in my life, girl. So, okay, so tell us the benefits on in burning a candle with that purity with the white, is it vanilla, did you say?
Oh, so it has sage and lavender oil in it as well.
Okay, and with the sage, what are some of the health benefits? What you know?
Well, the health benefits of sage. Sage is like a kind of antibacterial, it's anti-stringent, it's very much cleansing, it cleanses negative energy, it brings in positive energy. And then when you burn the candle, the sage actually smells quite reminiscent of marijuana, but just very lightly. It kind of singes on top, but everything sinks down because it's an oil base of soy wax. And then the lavender, so sage is used in spiritual ceremonies. It's for cleansing. It's for, for food and everything. But it's literally from inside out. It cleanses you and just detoxifies your environment as well as you.
Okay.
And then the lavender is really uplifting. Lavender is like calming. So if you have issues sleeping, relax.